What is happening?
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
It's Friday, I'm in love.
Senator Joe Kennedy from Louisiana. I would pay to see him and Trump at a comedy show. Marsh, I think I would pay to see Joe Biden do a stand-up set, too. He's funny. I did two of them for you today because we love you for listening so much. Also did this one. Which one do you like better, Hannah, the Joe Biden one or this one?
Oh, I have puns on water.
It's going to be I'm always going to vote for the pun one. Come on.
Hannah, there's nobody better at the puns than Hannah. Marsh, which one you liking better this morning? Yep. Sounds good to me, too. Coming up, we're going to get into the budget. Joe Biden, we're going to prove that doctors didn't find a brain when they indeed cut off the top of his head and dug around in there, because we're going to look at the budget that he proposed yesterday. This is universally accepted, even by the progressive news outlets. This is silly. It's ridiculous. We will get into that. But first, I want to start with an update on this. The guys from Boonville was driving a bus, Jefferson City, the other day. Apparently, kids, man, he gets all bent out of shape. Kids are freaking out. But we have an update. So, Brian, the latest on this school bus driver.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and keep this in mind. Very serious, but I want people that are hearing these charges that he's charged with 28 counts of endangering the welfare of a child. That's true, but, and it's very important to put this in the copy, 28 counts, they're misdemeanors. Mm-hmm. That's very important to note. One felony. Because misdemeanors, what people don't know about that, misdemeanors, you don't go to prison for that. If you're convicted of misdemeanor, you serve it in the county jail. It's very serious.
Even if let's say he gets convicted of all 28 misdemeanors, still wouldn't serve prison time.
Correct.
Like that. Okay.
The Missouri Department of Corrections doesn't take anyone for misdemeanors under state law. They would serve their time in a jail if that were to be the case. Still very serious. One felony count, property damage, 30 misdemeanors, including leaving the scene of a crash. Probably arraigned today, I would guess, before Judge Beadham, but he's been fired. I think that's what's more significant. Apparently,
well, I would hope so.
Goes without saying,
yeah. But he, the interesting thing about that, and you played the sound bites yesterday, Branden. The kids apparently would not sit down.
Yeah, and I want you to hear this audio. This is a 7th grader chatting with our news partners at ABC 17, and please understand, I know we laughed about it a little bit yesterday because I'm envisioning an angry bus driver who kicked the kids off the bus, backed up over some mailboxes, pulled forward, and for good measure ran over them again. But I think it is important, again, I'm not dismissing what this guy is accused of doing, but an account from somebody who was on the bus.
The bus driver kept yelling at us to sit down, and the bus monitor was screaming at us to sit down.
So they had two officials, if you will, on the bus driver and the bus monitor saying, sit down. Sit down. Sit down. They wouldn't do it. And I don't know why the kids wouldn't do it. I don't know. You're heading home from school. You lose your mind. You get excited. Or maybe they pay attention to the news and say, hey, man, there's a lot of places you can do stuff. You go to Portland, Oregon, San Francisco, New York, Chicago. You can commit some serious stuff, and you don't get penalized. I don't know if that's what they're hearing, but the guy's going to be in court today.
It's not on the agenda. I expect that today. I do. I assume probably on the afternoon docket before Judge Beadham, but we'll find out. There's one other note about him that I find very interesting. He is jailed without bond. And as someone who covers the courts regularly, that is for property damage and 30 misdemeanors, as serious it is, I'm not downplaying it. But being held without bond generally is going to be a murder charge. So there could be something in these court documents I just don't know about, or there could be something else, or maybe he's going to face additional charges, but there's no bond for him.
All right, there is Brian Houseworth. Mr. John Marsh is here. Good morning, bud.
Good morning.
That's producer Hannah.
Hello.
Steph Bell, ideally back on Monday. My name is Branden Rathert. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We're going to try to highlight some of the cooler things happening in the news here on a Feel Good Friday. And if you're watching on our YouTube channel, you'll notice something pretty interesting about us.
Other than how good looking we all are.
There's that.
Yes.
Brian.
We're all wearing red on Fridays to remember everyone deployed. So if you're listening as you're getting ready for work this morning and want to join us, we would really appreciate that.
And we're this as we're prepping for our Como Man Show tomorrow, 10 to 3, Holiday Inn Executive Center, Columbia. Just food, drink, your buds, power tools, sports, food, all kinds of good stuff. Now, if you show up tomorrow at the door, it's $20, and it is definitely worth it. Or you could get onto our websites, 939theeagle.com and kwos.com. It's only $15. Check out that VIP option. You get in, you get food. It's pretty cool deal. Yesterday, Biden. So we're going to prove. Biden said the doctors had to cut the top of his head off to see if he had a brain in there. You heard those were Biden's words. That's what opened up the show. And this, by the way, stock market yesterday, investors throughout the banking industry worried. So stocks down, S&P down almost 2% yesterday, Dow Jones down 1.5% yesterday, down, that's 542 points. NASDAQ Composite was down 2%. The reason being, jobs report comes out this morning about 7:30 our time. We are going to be monitoring that for you, and it's important because it has to do with the economy, jobs, stock market, your retirement plans. This stuff matters. So that comes out at 7:30. Meanwhile, Biden puts out a $7 trillion budget proposal. Now, I will start with this. Even the progressive news outlets are like, yeah, whatever. A couple of telling things. Usually, you're in the White House. He was in Pennsylvania. He's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Battleground state. So he's going and I think he was in front of unions yesterday hyping this stuff, and they're cheering and all this stuff. So let's go through this line by line and talk about why this is so poor. Number one, calls for tax increases on wealthy Americans. Promises to trim the federal deficit by nearly $3 trillion over the next decade. And by the way, he has no intention of doing that. He's doing that so that when he tries to run for president in 2024, if he's still alive, he's going to be able to say, well, look, back in 2023, I was trying to negotiate. I came up with a plan. The plan is ridiculous. It's like if you go to a car dealership and you're looking at a used 2005 Toyota Corolla, and the car dealership says, we want $100,000 for that 2005 Toyota. No, it's ridiculous. That's what Joe's doing. He's trying to get some ammo. That might come back to bite him. Some of the smart people that aren't in the Democrat tent, some of those folks that mill outside the tents, ideally are going to see right through this. And as a matter of fact, the USA Today calls it, quote, a political document. What about the U.S. Chamber of Commerce? What do they think? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, they're big players in the game of politics and finance. What do they think of this budget plan? Quote, recipe for economic and fiscal disaster. Here was the other interesting thing yesterday, besides him pumping this in Pennsylvania, a battleground state. Some of the things he calls it, there's action for climate change proposals, and this is really interesting because Kamala, she's in Aspen. She's in Colorado for a climate change conference, and she's blocking for him. It's like she's blocking for Kansas City Chiefs running back. So while Joe is pushing out this budget that's all BS and has climate change proposals in it, she's running cover for him. But check out what she's saying about climate change.
One of the young leaders was talking to me about climate mental health. I said, tell me what's going on with your peers. Climate mental health.
Climate mental health. I have never heard of such a thing.
Have I?
Brian, I'll tell you behind the
I've
scenes.
heard that.
If you're watching on our YouTube channel, Wake Up Mid-Missouri, you can also watch on our Facebook page. You see Brian's reaction when we played that clip, Marsh? Brian was like,
surprised.
yeah.
I'm a little out there for sure.
I'd not heard that term.
No.
And the bite you played, I know you're talking about, but before that, when you talk about taxing the rich, in a in the economy very tough right now. Normally, you don't want to raise your taxes in a time when the economy is down. President Kennedy talked about that, a Democrat. President Truman cut taxes. I'm surprised at the timing on that, and I don't know, how do you define rich? What is rich?
Well, yeah, Ted Cruz was on Hannity last night and said they got $5.5 trillion in new taxes in the budget.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hannity, who's here today, 2 o'clock, here every day on the radio station. Anybody been following the stories of some of the Fox News personalities' text behind the text, the on-air personalities, not what they were saying on air about the 2020 election, but what they were saying personally in texts to each other? We're going to highlight that at 6:35. I'm thinking folks that bought into election fraud to the point that it changed the outcome of the presidency. I'm thinking folks like that, they're going to be mad if you haven't heard some of these yet. 25% tax on billionaires is one of the things. Kamala, more on climate change, mental health.
I think I understand that, but unpack it for me. And she talked about how her peers are thinking about it. One example is, whether when they're ready, could they start a family? Worried about what that would mean and the stress of it. They were talking about it in terms of their peers.
So you know why they're stressed about it? Number one, I don't believe these little kids at any school, Jefferson Elementary School, any school here in town, Blair Oaks, there's no kids going around in the third, man, climate change is going to get us. I don't believe kids are doing that. If they are stressed, it's not because climate change is killing the planet tomorrow, as progressives would have you believe. It's because people on the news keep pushing. They hear it everywhere. You're going to die. We're going to die tomorrow. We got to get electric cars. We got to do this. We got to ride bikes to work. Because the news outlets are scaring people. And the kids are getting this. That's why they're stressed, Kamala.
Trying to figure out, they're going to have to get a job and they're going to have to make a living, but what can they do and how can they adapt the education that they're having now to their activism? Okay,
and again, I don't think 3rd and 4th graders are running around thinking about, God, no, when I get out of school, can I even start a family because of climate change? I'm going to have to go to college and get a job.
They're more interested in looking out the window to see if a polar bear's wander down to the playground, you know?
Kids aren't thinking, these little kids aren't thinking about that kind of stuff. And if kids are worried about climate change and climate mental health, as Kamala, I've never heard climate mental health before. That's ridiculous. It's because progressives are trying to scare the heck out of people. Wow, stunning. We'll have more on this throughout the show this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9theeagle.com and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS. Coming up, we're going to be doing the daily D.C. rundown, and I don't know if you heard about this. Stunning developments yesterday. So the CEO of Norfolk Southern, that's the company, had the train that derailed in Ohio that leaked that crap everywhere, and nobody from the administration went to see it. Former President Trump went before anybody in the Biden administration went. So the CEO is getting ready to testify in D.C. Just before that, something remarkable happens. We'll share the story with you coming up about 5 minutes from now in the Daily D.C. Rundown.
I am determined to make this right. Norfolk Southern will clean the site safely, thoroughly, and with urgency. You have my personal commitment.
That dude's name is Alan Shaw. He is the CEO of Norfolk Southern, testifying in D.C. yesterday. That gets us into today's daily D.C. rundown. Norfolk Southern CEO earnestly, this is according to the Associated Press, earnestly apologized before Congress for last month's fiery hazardous materials train derailment on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border, pledged millions of dollars to help the local town recover. But, and this is a big but, by the way, he stopped short of endorsing tougher safety regulations or specific commitments to pay for long-term health and economic harm. He's like, no, we don't need more regulations. We can't have this under the Democratic White. We just can't do this. It's bad for business. Speaking of these regulations and things, the House voted to overturn the Biden administration's protections. They're calling it protections for small streams, wetlands, and other waterways. And listen, I'm all about protecting streams and our waterways, especially here in mid-Missouri. This is important to us. We like to fish. We like to get out and hunt in the wetlands. The problem is they're regulating ridiculous things, literally puddles and ditches on farms here in mid-Missouri. You know how this would affect the agriculture industry here in Mid-Mo, John? Mid-Mo, and I don't know exactly what the numbers are in mid-Missouri, but I think it's approaching $1 billion the ag industry has on the state of Missouri. This is impactful stuff. It's important.
Ask a farmer.
Yeah, ask a farmer. Or check, hey, when you take home a chuck roast tonight and you make a beef stew out of it, think about where that beef came from and how important this stuff is. By the way, so the House overturns it, goes to the Senate now. And it may get overturned there, too, because Senator Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia, has already said, I support overturning these rules that Biden implemented because it is federal overreach. The hits keep coming for Joe Biden. The Associated Press, also on Biden regarding his federal budget that we just talked about. The Associated Press says, yeah, the budget, it's just a statement of values. That's what the Associated Press saying. In other words, this thing ain't real. This is kind of cool. Former President Donald Trump is releasing a new book next month and that's going to be featuring letters from celebrities and politicians written to him throughout the years. The book is called Letters to Trump. It includes private correspondence with former presidents like Obama, Nixon, along with celebrities like Michael Jackson, letters from Princess Diana. And I still have never heard the story. I don't know if you recall, but whenever Joe Biden came into office, right before he said unity and pledging love and support, and he lied then too because he's not doing any of that unity crap, he was asked about if Trump left a note for Biden, because it's tradition whenever a president leaves office, the tradition is you leave a little note for the incoming president. And he was asked about it, and I think his response was, at the time, Biden a couple of years ago, I think he characterized it as a nice note, but would not reveal what was in it. That's the thing I'd really love to see. I don't know if it's in the book or not. By the way, Ron DeSantis has come out with a new book. It is #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list. Coming up, the Twitter hearings yesterday. And have you been following the text from Fox News personalities regarding the 2020 election? What they were saying, not on the TV,
escaped from campus and got out into the real world, and now they're everywhere. Warnings at the top of Reddit threads and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram posts. Warnings before your favorite serial killer series, before news articles. Disney put an advisory on the movie Dumbo, warning viewers about stereotypes because otherwise you might think it was a documentary about flying elephants.
And he is not that far from the truth. Bill Maher, good morning. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up 6:50, we talk about this wokeness and all these crazy things. I believe we're in a period of I'm calling it snapback. It's like a rubber band. You snap and it comes back and it hits you. And that's what's happening. As a matter of fact, there is a major, very liberal city. They have no Walmarts left. And this is like a top 50, one of the 50 most populous cities in all of America. All the Walmarts are out, and it's because of very liberal woke policies. We'll feature that story coming up for you at 6:50. And also another major city, they were trying to be woke and be, yes, let's honor this country because they have brown people and it'll be lovely. And they got, this would be something that Hannah could feature in What's Hot with Hannah, which we do every morning. The entire city got duped.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's something like I would expect to hear it one day in What's Hot with Hannah. We do that every morning, 7:25. Feel Good Friday. What are you feeling good about? 874-9390. We love it when you share your text because then we share those things, and I think those good vibes kind of thing. Call me a softie. I own it, eternal optimist, but I think whenever you hear more and more good stuff, things that people are grateful for, things that make people smile, when you share those at 874-9390, and we share those here on the air, I don't know. I think it helps. It probably doesn't. But in this brain, which doctors have not looked into yet to see if there is one there, that's one thing Joe Biden and I do not have in common. That's what happens in this brain. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Steph back on Monday. There's Hannah, Brian Houseworth, John Marsh. I am Branden Rathert. One of the things I am grateful for today, we were talking about, I don't know if you've heard this statement yet. So Kamala, she's running cover for Joe while he's unleashing this unrealistic budget, by all accounts, unrealistic. And he's got money in there for climate change stuff. While that's happening, Kamala is at a climate change conference talking about something I have never heard in my entire life.
One of the young leaders was talking to me about climate mental health. I said, tell me what's going on with your peers. Climate mental health.
And climate mental health. And she goes on to talk about how these little kids, even Hannah's like, what the? And so she says these kids, their mental health is affected by climate change. If that is true, and I do not believe that, is because for some reason they're seeing the news, and you have people on CNN and people, and by the way, they do CNN Plus in classrooms here locally. Kids are seeing this, and they're freaking out because people are telling them, you're going to die tomorrow if you don't buy an electric car. If they are freaking out, it's because of the way the news portrays this. But Kamala, little kids are not thinking about this. Rick, text 874-9390. He says, my third grader came home yesterday. He says, you know what he was thinking about? You know what was on his mind? Sure wasn't climate change. He says he was excited because his friend told him he'd seen a ghost. That's what he was thinking about. This from a local fourth grade teacher. The teacher says, I can say with certainty that my fourth graders are not worried about this stuff. Here's what they are worried about. Worried about whether they get to play football or tag at recess. Or is it going to be too cold? Or is it going to rain? That's what kids in this class are worrying about. Anybody seen these texts from Fox? So it has to do with the 2020 election. Fox is being sued by Dominion, who had the voting machines. Fox, of course, following the election, went on and said, hey, this was the election was stolen. Remember, you even got banned, and we might get banned now for even uttering that phrase. We have been kicked off of YouTube before for saying those words together, stolen election.
Yeah, I think it was Congressman Billy Long that said it.
Yeah.
And then we got the first warning. No consequences. It was just a warning from YouTube. Branden thought that was so funny that the next day on the show, he just kept playing clips of Billy Long saying that. And guess what happened?
Remember what happened, John?
Yeah.
We got the boot.
Yeah, you got banned for 2 weeks, and we had planned a very special broadcast.
That's right. We were doing a YouTube only, a Facebook only.
Yep. You thought you were real funny.
Round table regarding, and it was
Billy's fault.
Yeah, it was Billy's fault, man. And we were, and because I didn't believe that we would really get kicked off. How asinine is that for saying that on an opinion-based program? But that's what these tech giants are doing. So Fox News personalities.
Funny guy.
Of course, we know what Fox's take was following the 2020 election. Now there's a lawsuit from Dominion, $1.6 billion. I think they have backed off that a little bit. But if you believed that there was fraud, and at first, there were some things to look at in the first couple of weeks, maybe first couple of months following that. But after this went before judges, numerous judges, including numerous Trump-appointed judges who says there's not even enough evidence to move forward with this after audits and recounts. There's just nothing there to show that there was fraud that would have changed the election. So now, after we're getting a peek at some of the texts that were happening behind the scenes from Fox personalities, including Sean Hannity, who's here today at 2 o'clock. And I love Sean Hannity. I do. Got a great TV show. There is a text from Sean Hannity. He said in a deposition, now this isn't a deposition, this is not a text, said he did not believe the election claims by Trump legal advisor Sidney Powell, quote, for 1 second. So you have Hannity saying, I did not believe him, not for 1 second. Tucker Carlson said the whole idea that that Dominion voting machines stole the election. Here's what Tucker Carlson said. Seems insane to me. And, quote, making everyone paranoid and crazy, including me. Rupert Murdoch, Fox News chairman, wrote in an email that the then U.S. president and his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, were growing increasingly mad after Election Day. Mr. Carlson said he hated Mr. Trump passionately, which is fine. Here's some more exchanges. Mr. Tucker Carlson, do the executives, referring to the executives at Fox, do the executives understand how much credibility and trust we've lost with our audience?
Especially on election night.
Yeah. And by the way, there were a lot of concerns. Mr. Murdoch on election night, he was wigging out because the Fox Network was the first one to call Arizona, was the first one to call for that.
Yep, for Biden.
Yeah, for Biden. Sean Hannity apparently told morning television host Steve Doocy that the news. So then the other thing that's happening besides, and there's several texts, where you had Fox News, prominent, high-profile Fox News personalities saying behind the scenes, we don't believe this. We don't believe this. There were a lot of them, including Sean Hannity, okay? And I love Hannity, but these are just facts. Sean Hannity apparently told morning host Steve Doocy that the news was destroying them. So the other thing that was happening, you have the news division of Fox and then the not news division. In other words, the opinion folks like Tucker Carlson. And there was kind of this battle. Sean Hannity said the news is destroying them, i.e. people like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson. Steve Doocy, you know what he said? He said they don't care because they are journalists. There's a Mr. Salmon, and his first name escapes me, but he's a high-ranking official at Fox News. Here's what he said. Quote, in my 22 years affiliated with Fox, this is the closest thing I've seen to an existential crisis, at least journalistically. Back to John's point about what Rupert Murdoch was saying about the network's decision desk, said he hated it. And then this separate of the emails and the texts and the depositions, Jenna Ellis, you'll remember she was an attorney for Trump in the wake of the 2020 election disciplinary hearing. She admitted she misrepresented whether it be on Twitter or on television news outlets. Jenna Ellis misrepresented. She admits this. She misrepresented evidence on at least 10 occasions.
I go back to that thing with Arizona. I remember it was like Hannity sending texts out to, I think, Tucker and Laura Ingraham saying that call had destroyed our brand that it took us 25 years to build.
Yeah, because so there was a huge rub apparently within Fox where you had the news people and the opinion people who obviously were just like we were here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'll speak for myself personally, huge fan of Trump. But then there was this rub like, well, here's the facts, but then there's opinions. As a matter of fact, in a court ruling, and this had to do with some of these stuff surrounding this, specifically the events of January 6th and some other issues. And a judge ruled, quote, Fox argued this, that given Mr. Tucker Carlson's reputation, any reasonable viewer arrives with an appropriate amount of skepticism about the statements he makes. This is while he dismissed a defamation case. It was a defamation case against Fox. Fox won that case, and the judge said because people know when they tune into Tucker Carlson, they do it with an appropriate amount of skepticism. And I wonder if and I'm fans of these people. I am. These are facts. And I wonder, are people mad that, hey, I was listening to everything these people were saying on air, and behind the scenes, they were saying the complete opposite of what they were telling me on the TV. Does that make you mad? I mean, if people were if us, the general public, were forming our opinions based on what people like Tucker and Sean were telling us, does that make us mad but you were, like in real life, you were saying something completely different?
Well, I think it reinforces for a lot of people who, when I circle back to it, who were very upset on election night with Fox's coverage and said, if I want to see this coverage, I'll switch to one of the CNN or MSNBC or somebody, and I don't think this helps any.
There are lots of folks in the Wake Up family that have told us, I only go to Fox for my news because they're not like, the rest of the mainstream media. They're not fake news. And then something like this comes out, and I think it's good perspective for people.
Yeah, and I do. And Fox is very necessary, very important. At one point in this, by the way, they were worried about losing audience to Newsmax because they would continue to go for this, and they were worried. They were concerned about that. I wonder if Hannity will cover this today, 2:00 here on the radio station. Coming up just a few minutes. Oh, by the way, Tucker Carlson's thing Monday night, showing the footage of some of the other things that happened during the January 6th thing that happened in Washington, D.C. He had really, really high ratings for Monday night. You know what happened then on Tuesday night? After everybody except on Fox, all CNN, MSNBC, USA Today, everybody was on this. You know what happened to his ratings on Tuesday? Approached record numbers. Yep. Almost, I think, over 4 million viewers the next night. Coming up, Snapback. Woke towns paying the price for their woke
embarrassing for the city.
I truly don't even have words for it. I'm really sorry for the city that they got duped in that way.
Whose job was it to do a simple Google search, right? As you said, like, no one in City Hall, not one person did a Google search. So maybe we need a transformation of City Hall because not one person said, let me go on Google and figure out this was a fake city.
That's reaction in the city of Newark, New Jersey. Newark, New Jersey, in an effort to be woke and rainbows and unicorns. But look at what we do. We know crime's high here and the unemployment in Newark, New Jersey, a horrible place to live, apparently. I don't know. I've never lived there. They thought, hey, there's this country called Kailasa, and they want to become our sister city. And they sent documents, and they invited folks from the country of Kailasa, and they had a big press conference and said, look, we're now sister cities, and we're supporting them because they need our help. John, you ever heard of the country of Kailasa?
No, I missed that one.
You know why you've never heard of the country of Kailasa?
I'm uninformed.
It doesn't exist. But the leadership, the whole city officials, nobody, as one of the residents there on the local TV station said, didn't somebody at least do a Google search? Because if you would have done a Google search on the country of Kailasa, you would have found this is something that's been orchestrated by this big time. You know, you get the emails about the Saudi prince who needs to put a couple $2 billion in your bank account. That's like this, but it's based in India. And they've created like this country and will become your sister city, and you can help us because here's what happens here, and you're woke, and we know that you're dumb enough to give us your money and do these things in Newark, New Jersey because of woke leadership. They did this, the entire city. Nobody, mayor, city administration, nobody on the city council, nobody bothered to go and do a Google search on the country of Kailasa. There is no such thing as the country of Kailasa. Snapback. They're embarrassed because they were trying to be woke. Now let's go to Portland, Oregon. And these things matter, by the way, because we're starting, we see some cities here in mid-Missouri and in the rest of the Show Me State. We see what's happening. Kim Gardner, snapback there, all this incredibly progressive stuff, and it's coming back to bite not only the people who have been victimized because of her lack of astuteness to her job. Those people have been victimized. The residents of Missouri have been victimized. Now we go to Portland, city of Portland. Hannah, I'm sorry, real quick, look up the population of the city of Portland. Sorry. City of Portland has no more Walmarts left. Statement.
They burned them all down.
Exactly. Television station KPTV in Portland, a reporter reading a statement from a city councilman.
Rising crime and an inhospitable business climate.
Rising crime in hospitable business climates in the city of Portland.
They're looking at about 641,000.
641,000 people live there. Now, the city of Columbia has 110,000 people. There's 3 Walmarts. I don't know how many the city of Portland had. Walmart has pulled all of their stores out of Portland because of a bad business climate, because that's what a Democrat policy is. Look at Biden's budget. These are bad financial policies. Walmart is saying, yeah, this is just not a good place to do business, and the crime. And by the way, as I was watching this and stealing the audio from KPTV, in one of the neighborhoods where this Walmart is, there's a U.S. Postal Service office, people walking in and out to drop the mail and pay the bills and things like that. And is what they did. The windows are boarded up. The door, the glass doors, all the windows are boarded up, but it's still open for business because people think, well, it's a crime to arrest people for committing crimes. Snapback, people coming back to their senses. Also in the Oregon State House, they're looking at stiffening up some penalties on crimes because it has gotten that bad. These things are all for real. So that's one of the things I think that I'm feeling good about here on a Feel Good Friday, the snapback on a lot of these things. Coming up, 7:10. Do you know what's happening in your kids' schools, like your kids, grandkids going to school this morning? Do you know what's happening inside of those schools? We have a collection of stories that we think you should know about. We asked the question, do you know what's happening? That's coming up 7:10 this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. What are you grateful for today? Text us 874-9390.
what is happening.
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
It's Friday, I'm in love.
I'll tell you the biggest thing, the thing I am most excited about, Como Man Show. This goes down tomorrow. It's only $20 at the door. Or you can go to the website, 939theeagle.com, KWOS.com, $15 online. Check out the VIP option. Like you get to go into your own little gated off area and there's food and drink. It's a really, really, really good time. Been doing it for several years now. And it's going to rain tomorrow. So come join us at this thing, man. Starts 10 o'clock, goes 10 until 3. This is at the Holiday Inn Executive Center. That is going to be in Columbia. Welcome into the show. Feel Good Friday edition of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie should be back on Monday. Brian Houseworth is here. John Marsh is here. There's producer Hannah. You got a good one for? We need something to help us feel good on a Feel Good Friday. Got anything stirring up yet in What's Hot with Hannah?
There's options.
There's some options. We're looking at some of those.
It's good to have options.
Yeah. Keeping my eyes open.
Can I be honest here?
Yes.
So thank you, Brian. When you say, I've got some options, does that mean, I don't know yet?
Yes.
I love your honesty, and that's what we do here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We'll always try to be honest with you. You may not always like what it is that we are honest about, but we always try to be honest. Do you know what's going on in schools? Like if your kids are going off to school this morning, your grandkids are going off to school this morning, do you know what's happening inside of our school buildings here in mid-Missouri? And I'm just asking, I mean, do you think about that? I wonder what happens. And, of course, there's several stories. I would almost say numerous stories, all centered around schools. So your kids go to school this morning. If they're in Columbia, bus may or may not come pick them up today because they have driver shortages. And by the way, those buses in Columbia, that's not Columbia Public School District. It's the company that they contract out to. Marsh, update on this Jefferson City bus driver from the other day?
I guess technically first student in Jefferson City might be light one driver this day as well.
What's the latest on this?
This is the guy, Robert Hearn. This is the guy we told you about earlier in the week who allegedly just outside the Jefferson City limits got into it with the kids, a shouting match, put them off the bus. Kid called the bus company, said, okay, get back on the bus. And then he promptly backed over some mailboxes, apparently on purpose, allegedly on purpose, and drove off. And now the bus company is firing him, and he's facing some charges, including endangering the welfare of all the kids.
Yeah, and we're getting some, if you look at 93.9 The Eagle Facebook, we're getting some questions. People are asking, did they hear me right at 6 o'clock? Marissa Hagler and others are asking when I mentioned no bond. You did hear me correctly. No bond, 30 misdemeanors and one felony, which is property damage. This is highly unusual. I've only seen a no bond. Quite frankly, I've even seen murder suspects.
I know. It makes you wonder if there's some outstanding warrant or something.
No, nothing I can find. I don't find any criminal record on him, John. The only thing I can think of, and of course it's up to the judge, is there could be something in those court documents that we just don't know about. Other than that, I'm really surprised at the no bond. That's very, very rare on misdemeanors and a property damage felony. That's very serious. But nonetheless, I'm very surprised.
And then a local high school baseball team. They're without, their regular coach is gone, apparently. This in Boonville. What's happening there?
Yeah, it's a surprise. I mean, a well-known coach, Greg Huff, Megan Drakus, reporting last night from our news partner at KMIZ, Brandon, that a parent, and I watched the TV piece last night, a parent alleged her son, we're not going to use his full name, his name is Jamal, he's a minor, was subject to hazing. It has to do something, according to her, with a social media post he made. I have no idea what was said. Apparently, he alleges, because he spoke on camera, that he was hazed. Mr. Huff is still the football coach. There's an interim baseball coach, Fred Smith, but the school is not going to make any more comments. So, again, I agree with you. The schools, I mean, almost all my newscasts has something to do with schools, some positive, some not so positive.
So, and I'm not trying to scare parents or grandparents. And by the way, even if you don't have kids in any of our local school districts, this stuff, it's still important. And I said, back in December when you went to the assessor's office in Callaway County or Howard County or Audrain County, did you look at how much of your property tax, your personal property taxes, how much went to schools? So this is important.
Yes, it is.
Meanwhile, Columbia Public School District involved, they're being sued again. How many times have we mentioned Columbia Public School District in courts? So now there's a lawsuit. This, according to our news partners, ABC 17, a lawsuit from a Columbia family accuses a former security staff member of the school district of concussing their teenage son and chipping his tooth during school. And again, when your kids go to school, do you know what's happening throughout their day? The lawsuit from the family, as he's referred to in court documents, was moved from state to federal courts this week. JJ's family is accused, the former assistant coordinator of safety and security there, of forcing the teen into a school office and then pushing him into the ground. This was September 2021. This kid was 14 years old at the time. He got concussed and chipped his tooth, allegedly, according to what ABC 17's story says. Chipped his tooth, got concussed. Now, the state's Child Abuse and Neglect Board reversed the Department of Social Services decision that the guy who was accused of doing this, they reversed a decision that the guy had committed child abuse based on its investigation shortly after it's happening. But now that case on civil end is going to federal court. And it's just, and sometimes, I seriously, and I don't do the fear mongering, but I wonder. My kids, when I was in Idaho last week skiing, so I've got 3 grandkids, and then my son has 2 half brothers, 13, 11 years old. Now, Idaho is uber conservative, and they live in a rural area by the mountains. And it's even more conservative than uber conservative.
Very Republican.
In their school district, I just started asking them about, hey, are you guys learning cursive writing? And I guess it's a very common thing. Few schools teach cursive writing anymore. But I was asking, what kind of things are you liking doing? And he was talking about how he likes to write essays that dispute certain held beliefs. Because listen, whenever you believe something for a long time and you start to learn more and more it's not true, it's uncomfortable, and people hold on. And I understand that. Whether it's religion, whether it's the 2020 election, whatever it is, it's not comfortable to change your... I'll speak for me. When I believe something for a long time, it's really hard personally to change my mind.
I can agree. I can attest to that.
On what aspect?
You're just a little stubborn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with
Does
it.
it come
just
off as
a little
stubborn?
stubborn.
I'm kind of an old fuddy-duddy stuck in my ways. I'm a creature of habit.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest lessons I ever learned was Hannah did a homework assignment on me, did an experiment, and I didn't know this was going on. She got me into this tech thing regarding calendars or some stuff. And
my assignment was I had to teach someone how to do something, and it was for my psychology class, and I had to write about it.
And I was not aware of it. And this went on for several months, and I had no idea. It was just crazy. Anyhow,
I got an A.
She did. Good work.
Good work.
One of the things that my son's half-brothers told me when they were talking about they like to write essays that dispute points. Mm-hmm. Here's the weird thing, though. This blew me away, and I talked to his parents about it. I said, you are aware that this is happening? And they're like, yeah, we're not pleased about it either. In their school district, which surprises me, their school district, when they have to cite their sources, they can only use sources with websites that end in .edu or .gov. That's all. So they're trying to dispute points of view of what they're being taught in school. The only resources that they can use have to be websites from .edu or .gov, the ones that are spewing a lot of this crap in the first place. This is a true story. Just blew me away.
Well, and that would eliminate 93. I'm just going to use an example. 939theeagle.com, stltoday.com, the news outlets that are generally covering what I would call local stories. That's surprising.
Yeah. By the way, quick traffic note. This in Columbia, crash blocking the intersection at 163 South Providence. Route K emergency crews arriving at the scene.
Yeah, that's it. And then a lot of activity. That's on East Old Plank right now.
Here's and this is the other thing that blows me away. Columbia, Missouri National Education Association, that's a local teachers union. They've agreed to a $650 base salary increase for teachers. By the way, there's a lot of teachers in mid-Missouri. They should be making way more than what they are making now. I believe that wholeheartedly. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But here's the reason, and they wanted the salary upped by almost $10,000 a year. But here's the reasoning from the CMNEA, from the teachers union. They wanted that increase to $50,000 to account for changes because of the cost of living. Why has the cost of living gone up in the past 2 years? Yeah. Because of the same progressive Democrat liberal policies that these teachers unions subscribe to ever since Joe's been in office. By the way, job numbers come out 7:30 this morning. Keeping an eye on that for you after the stock market. All facets yesterday down. That's bad for retirement plans. Waiting this jobs report coming up 7:30. I'll get that to you as quickly as we can. So the teachers, the progressive teachers union, are like, well, we need raises for teachers because cost of living has gone up. Well, why has cost of living gone up? Because you voted for people like Joe Biden. You put this guy. It's circular. This whole circular logic from Democrats, man, blows me away. Also, by the way, Jefferson City candidate forum yesterday. There's various school board forums that have been going on, and I just wanted to mention this real quick because I do have one more school story for you here. There was a forum for Jefferson City council candidates. Ward 5 incumbent Alicia Edwards is up against Mark Schwartz. I talked to Mark Schwartz the other day. Very nice guy, very smart man. And we were talking about how is that running in a nonpartisan race. And he says it's kind of interesting, he says, but it's obvious from our solutions, our proposed solutions to the problems. It's obvious what the differences are. And by the way, Columbia Public School District, Chuck Basie and John Potter is who you vote for. And finally, in a Connecticut school, and we hear a lot of these stories more and more over the past 10 to 15, 20 years or so, a female official that worked in the school district in Connecticut was messing around inappropriately, messaging and doing other things with like a 14-year-old kid. She was the lunch lady. It wasn't even a teacher. She's in big trouble. And it reminded me, John, you ever heard, so Adam Sandler, he's got the Hanukkah song, he's got the turkey song. Have you ever heard his Lunch Ladyland song?
Oh, yeah.
A great song, but
classic.
Oh my gosh,
where the sloppy Joe saves the day.
Yeah, but I'm reminded of this line from his song regarding this Connecticut lunch lady who's been fired, charged with second-degree sexual assault for enticing a minor by computer and the risk of injury to a minor. I'm reminded of the line from this song.
No student can escape the magic of Lunch Ladyland.
Welcome into a Feel-Good Friday. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Let's
slap, slap, slappy Joe.
Oh, my God. What a great song.
Oh, boy.
What's hot with Hannah today?
Not sure I can top that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yesterday was National Get Over It Day, and we got some good responses on the Wake Up Facebook page.
I love it. It's coming up at 7:25 this year on Wake Up Mid-Missouri 93.9, The Eagle, and 104.5 News Radio 950 KWOS.
Hoagies and grinders.
Is my 928th day without a drink.
Nice.
We talk. Thank you. And I don't care about the amount of time. I just care that I'm not drinking today. But we always say on the show, and I'm serious, man. Hannah's taken these phone calls before. If you or somebody you know has an issue with drinking, it causes them problems and they cannot stop, please, seriously, feel free to call the radio station. You can text. We won't use your name on air, anything like that. I will give you my cell phone number, and I'll show you at least what I did. So anyhow, there's a friend of mine. His name is Troy, and he recently he had 1 year, 365th day of sobriety, and he was invited to speak at an organization, and he shared his story, and the guy hit it out of the park, man. He talked about a little bit about here's the bad crap that happened, but he spent most of his time talking about, but man, this is what life is like today, and here's what I did to get here. And I'm just grateful to be able to try to affect change in people's lives because alcoholism and drug addiction, God, it's an ugly, ugly, ugly thing. Yesterday on the Gary Nolan Show, Jim Babke, Gary does Think Tank Thursdays. Kevin Jackson, Gary Babke, I love when he does this.
Very deep.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It really is. He does it every Thursday. Dave Rowland. Love Dave Rowland. One of the guys he chats with is Jim Babke, and he's part of some kind of think tank on his own. I think he's a former syndicated talk show host. And I don't know what got him there, but they got to talking about news outlets. And it may have been 2020 election stuff. It may have been Tucker Carlson the other night. I don't know what it was, but they got onto this discussion about where do you go into the news for straight up, flat out news. And Jim Babke, what this guy said, I just thought was incredible. He nailed it. He made me think. And what I really appreciated about it, because it's one of the things that we try to do here on the show. This is Babke on the Nolan Show yesterday.
They tend to be very much more about what's going to rouse the base and get people to vote, and not so much about what's actually happening. There's no real analysis of the situations here. All of these channels are actually a toxic cancer, a blight on our entire system that is designed to generate and create conflict between neighbors. None of them are any good. Let's bring in CNN here. None of them are any good. Bring in some of these other ones, these new upstarts that are trying to come along and be the replacement to Fox News. None of them are any good because they're all about generating conflict. They're all about tribalism. They're not really about telling you what's actually happening.
And there's more here because then I think the next thing he says is even more important. And yeah, it's just who said what, and oh, did you hear? And hey, but you know what? People watch. For example, Tucker Carlson regularly gets about 3 million viewers per night. Got even a little bit more on Monday in anticipation of the video from January 6th he's going to be airing. Did you hear what happened to his ratings on Tuesday night? After all that. They went over 4 million viewers on Tuesday night. So, two different issues. People watch, they get advertising, that's what happens. But then you talk about the actual news.
Who's being affected and what's being impacted? Most of the time, they're not even talking about you. They're talking in a hardball sense. They're talking in a sense of like, okay, what's the effect on Biden and the Democrats going to be? What's the effect on Trump and the Republicans going to be? What about what the effect is on you and your community? What about the effect about people you know and love around you?
That is, in my opinion, that's amazing. Because that's one of the things we try to do here. For example, let's say we're talking about a local school district that has a lot of issues. We try to say, this is why you should care. Your taxpayers pay for it. Your kids go to that school. Job numbers, by the way, just came out. U.S. job growth surges again in February is the headline from Fox Business. U.S. job growth surges again in February as the economy adds 311,000 new positions. Now, here's why this matters. Yesterday, 3 major indexes on the stock market, all 3 of them down, and some of them rather significant, down in a significant fashion. Why? Because bankers were fearing this jobs report that comes out today. That's why that stuff matters. And again, your retirement and the economy as a whole and the mood of the nation, those things matter. And we may not, we may not always hit the mark when we're talking in a news sense. Now, this is separate of playing Adam Sandler's Lunch Ladyland song. But we try our best to say, this is why it matters. This is why it cares. For another example, in our Missouri legislature, lawmakers working very hard to make sure that young women in high school sports and little girls in middle school sports, trying to make sure that sports stays fair for them. That stuff matters. And it matters. Rather appreciated Jim Babka's visit on the Gary Nolan Show. Gary Nolan is here today at 9 o'clock. Coming up just a few minutes from there, still a lot of things we could get to. By the way, 8:25, we're going to have more on the job numbers. We're going to be doing that in the morning bell. So we'll try to, once we get a chance, to pull through some of these numbers. Ron DeSantis has a new book coming out. It's doing pretty well. Couple of stories coming up. We hope that will probably just bring a little laugh, a little smile to your face. We're going to do that coming up just a few minutes from now. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. 93.9 The Eagle, 104.5 News Radio, 950 KWOS. By the rain, snow likely tomorrow. That's why you should join us at the Como Man Show.
to make this right. Norfolk Southern will clean the site safely, thoroughly, and with urgency. You have my personal commitment.
Alan Shaw, CEO of Norfolk Southern in Washington, D.C., yesterday testifying about what happened there in East Palestine. Did you hear what happened? Like I don't know how long it was before, but almost like right as they're getting ready to testify. Did you hear what happened, Marsh? There was another train derailment, this one in Alabama. Oh, gosh. I'm thinking of that Alanis Morissette song. Isn't that ironic? There was another train that derailed, I think, in West Virginia, and this one spilled.
Jagged Little Pill might be more appropriate.
And by the way, we talk about this stuff, and you know this stuff. You give back to the community. You're involved with hazmat teams, diesel and water and stuff. I'm guessing that ain't real good on the fish, is it?
No, it doesn't tend to do them any good at all.
Yeah, and then we look at some of these chemicals that spilled into waterways in that train derailment in East Palestine. That was some nasty stuff that they burned off there, too.
Yeah, and there's still folks. Boy, if you watch, Fox just the other night with people saying we're still not drinking the water and all, and somebody needs to step up.
Yeah, it's and it's disturbing, and that's why, by the way, when people like Pete Buttigieg don't go and then do go after the former president goes to help out in East Palestine, when they go, it's like, do something. Show us that you're concerned about us. And we saw how that unfolded. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. You getting your list together for winners and losers of the week? We could certainly use your... We have a big list this morning. First and foremost, well, I'll save it for 8:10. Mizzou basketball. Wow. Love what they are doing. But winners and losers of the week, and especially the more localer, the more betterer. If you got somebody that you would like to nominate for a winner of the week, it could be somebody in the news, it could be a friend, it could be somebody involved in charity work, it could be whatever. But if you know somebody that we should pick as a winner of the week at 8:35, please get those texts into us. We love when you do that, 874-9390, and then losers of the week. But we've got a wide and varied list this morning. That's coming up at 8:35. A couple of interesting, so it's Feel Good Friday, and we do this, we try to highlight some more of the cool things happening in the news, or just not things that are necessarily news, but I think things that speak more to the reality of human nature. For example, the George Floyd stuff, talk to somebody who comes here from out of country. It's amazing. They talk about the differences in how much fast food we eat or what we think is important and all these things. The other thing that shocks them is like if they get access and they're seeing, Fox and CNN and MSNBC and USA Today, and they read those publications, and then they actually come to America. This is one of the things I get a lot when I chat with folks that are not from this country. They're like, well, I thought white and black people don't get along. I'm like, well, why do you think that? Well, like on CNN, they show it. And they come here and they experience the reality. So that's why I appreciate stories like this that doesn't make it a news story, but somebody posts on social media, and then somebody like Hannah happens to get a hold of it. There was a grocery store. This is in New Iberia, Louisiana. Dude's at a checkout line. And he went and deposited his check into the bank. He figured, hey, it's a couple hours later. It will have landed. It will have cleared. He goes through the grocery store and he buys, I don't know, a couple $100 worth of groceries. And his debit card gets denied. And the clerk, oh, sorry. And the dude behind him says, hey, man, I got your back. Don't worry about it. And this guy whose debit card just got declined says, did you see how much it was for? And the guy said, yeah, I saw it was for a couple of $100. He said, don't worry about it. I got your back, man. And now they've become friends.
That's cool.
I know, and I love that stuff. And by the way, one of the dudes was black, one of them was white. Shouldn't matter, but it does matter because stuff like that I think we should highlight more. But it's stories like that may not be a news story, but just that friendship that develops because somebody wanted to help somebody out. And I love that stuff, John.
What's a famous product from New Iberia, Louisiana? Do you know?
I do not.
Tabasco.
That's where I recognized it from. I thought it sounded familiar, and I'm thinking,
yeah.
Well, I thought New Iberia. I'm like, is there a town in Missouri that's called Iberia?
Yeah, there is.
And that's okay. Maybe that's why it sounded.
That would be old Iberia, I guess.
So I just like stuff. like that. Also, Emily Spain on KOMU Channel 8. Emily Spain, she does something. And I don't know if she does it weekly or what, but she does a good job. I think she does a good job. And I'll even send her, I'll email and say, that was really cool. But she does something called MVP where she highlights folks around her. And the one she did last night is Granny's House founder. Now, this was something in Columbia that served kids that were living in the city's public housing, didn't have places to go to after school and stuff like that. She just dedicated herself to helping these kids. She passed away in the fall, but she did a story about how her legacy lives on.
Pam had a real special place in her heart for kids who grew up in the projects because she grew up in the projects in Kansas City. And this place exists to give these kids a safe place to come when they get off the bus. Sometimes there's no parents home.
Now it's Donica Coleman chatting with KOMU talking about Pam Ingram, who folks that helped and volunteered where she was at Granny's house in Columbia. They called her Granny Pam. Coming up a little bit after 8 o'clock here on a Feel Good Friday. How about them Mizzou Tigers? Did you get your tickets yet for the Como Man Show? You can go to 939theeagle.com, KWOS.com. They're only $15 online, $20 at the door tomorrow. And the other cool thing, you can buy some of the T-shirts tomorrow.
What is happening?
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal. And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
It's Friday, I'm in love. It's Friday, I'm free again. I got my motor running for a wild weekend. It's finally Friday, I'm out of control. Forget the working blues and let the good times roll. It's gonna be a rock and roll weekend. From 8 o'clock when the show begins. Get on the phone, call all your friends.
They had to take the top of my head off a couple times, see if I had a brain.
Tell them it's going to be a rock and roll weekend. I don't want to think, I just want to bang on the drum all day.
By the way, our staff put together 2 of those this morning on a Feel Good Friday. We've got that. We'd just like to do this on Fridays, chill out a little bit. We also did this one.
Oh, I have puns on water.
Tell them it's going to be a rock.
Which one you like better, Hannah?
I'm always going to vote for the pun one, even though it came out of the mouth of Kamala Harris.
Kamala doing a Hannah-ism there. There's, you know who else? So Hannah, the producer, as a matter of fact, kind of one of the ways that we started our relationship years, not a relationship, but, you know, like when we met, one of the things we used to do is we used to exchange puns all the time, and Hannah would always win. We would exchange puns on Facebook, and Hannah always won those. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's a guy who, and I hate to do this because he's on a kind of a competing morning show, but he's like a brother to us, Cosmo from the Y107. Coach Cosmo from the Y107 morning show. He's pretty good with puns too. Marsh, did you like the Kamala one better or the Biden one better?
Boy, that Kamala one's kind of starting to grow on me. My favorite pun of the week, though, was when we had the Jefferson City police chief on, and he talked about budding problems with recreational marijuana.
Who was the one? As a matter of fact, I have picked this dude. We got a great pun from a listener yesterday as we were talking about this bus driver from Jefferson. He's from Boonville, but driving bus for Jefferson City Schools and kicked the kids off the bus, backed over some mailboxes, and for good measure, run them over again. Somebody had texted us and saying, and it was one of the students, actually. They called the bus company to say, hey, here's what's going on. This dude's kicked us off the bus. One of our listeners texted in and said, oh, so the students threw the bus driver under the bus. That was good. Also, I'm also going to pick one of our listeners, Jeremy. We're doing this at 8:35. If you know somebody who should be a winner or loser of the week, the more local or the more better, get your text into us, 874-9390. We're going to unleash those at 8:35. Jeremy, listener Jeremy. We were talking about temporary tags. What did we end up? The oldest picture we got was 2 years, 4 months old. We know it's a big problem here in mid-Missouri. Folks driving around with temporary tags. People get upset. How is it that these people with these temporary tags aren't getting caught? There's not enough law enforcement. And
That's it?
Yeah, they're not. They've
it.
got to prioritize.
Well, and I'd go beyond that. There was a bill called Senate Bill 35 a few years ago. You may remember Eric Schmidt, who he sponsored the bill. But what it did is there were according to him there were police agencies that were speed traps and things like that, and they were making their money based on speeding tickets. And you look at the numbers are speeding. The Post-Dispatch did a story in St. Louis. I'd venture to say it's statewide. They've dropped in half in terms of their traffic ticket numbers. There just aren't enough law enforcement officers to enforce that right now. And they just don't have the manpower or women power to do that.
So yesterday we were and you had to send us pictures, and we had two different photos. Only a difference of 4 days. 2 different verified photos of people driving around from pictures taken in traffic right here where we live yesterday morning. Plates that had expired in November of 2020. It was stunning. So Jeremy, wow. I'm picking him as a winner. He said, and we're trying to think of all these solutions, John. We're talking, well, you could use, what if you paid your taxes at the dealership and the state could mail you the tags, or maybe we could, and we're coming up with all these very complex solutions. Jeremy said, tell the state to quit making temporary tags so durable. And that way they'll fade away after a month. And we're like,
that was good.
874-9390, 874-9390. Job numbers are out. Employers added 311,000 jobs, a little bit better than what they thought, but still. So they thought about 200,000. It was over 300,000. Unemployment up to 3.6%. Sharon, welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. What can we do for you?
Yes, talking about puns. You know the White House spokesman, that Jean Pierre, whatever her name is?
Karine Jean-Pierre.
I saw a clip on TV the other day where she was talking and she said President Obama just announced, and then she caught herself and she goes, oh, I meant Biden. And I thought, well, you were right the first time, because isn't Obama actually running the country through Biden?
Pretty much, Sharon. Thank you. By the way, what do you feel good about on a Feel Good Friday? What are you grateful for today?
That I'm alive.
Amen, sister. We're grateful that you would take time out of your day to be a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, producer Hannah. I'm Branden Rathert. Stephanie should be back on Monday. So Stephanie was going to come in today. Did you hear this story, Hannah?
I wasn't told a story, but there was a comment made.
Really? Let me hear what you have, because maybe this is different than
I
what
don't.
It's better than his.
What do you got, Hannah?
So Stephanie texted me last night. Let me pull it up here.
Okay.
She said, B seems nervous about strep, so I'll stay home tomorrow too.
So I'm asking, I'm like, hey, hope you're doing all right. And this is yesterday. I'm like, hey, you going to come back in the sandbox with us? I said, if not, we'll bring in Ashley Emmel. She's a regular guest on the Randy Tobler Show.
Dr. Emmel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she said, I should be okay for tomorrow. And she says, but I'm fine. So I should be okay. And I said, sounds good. About an hour and a half later.
you had time to think about it.
Well, I'm weird when it comes to germs anyway. I know.
Just apparently not when it comes to your plastic water bottle.
I don't want to get sick.
His germs.
I don't want. My germs are okay. Other people's germs, I'm really weird about it. I don't like to eat buffet food. I don't eat birthday cake after a bunch of people blown out candles and blown all their germs all across that thing. I get weird about that stuff. So I thought about it for a while, and then my next text, because here's what I wanted to say, is like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Get better coming Monday.
We got this.
That's right. So instead of doing that, I said, you have strep throat, ?
Step throat?
Strep throat. You have strep throat, ? Is that contagious?
Yeah, it is.
Well, I already knew
because
before I sent the text to Stephanie Bell, I'd already Googled it, and I was pretty sure I was right anyway. Yeah, strep throat is contagious.
It is contagious, for sure.
He was afraid he was going to get it off the computer terminal from just talking to her.
So then she says, they said that I shouldn't be 24 hours after antibiotics, but I can stay home tomorrow if that makes you feel better.
And you said, yeah.
I said, well, I'd be okay. But for real, Steph, if you want to sleep in, it's cool. I just wanted to make sure that you're okay.
So, yeah, anyone that runs into Stephanie at the Como Man Show tomorrow, she is on antibiotics, and it'll be almost 48 hours, so she won't be contagious anymore.
And the interesting thing about hope she's doing well. There is stuff going around in mid-Missouri. We kind of had a break in January and February. Surprisingly, December was a high flu month. I haven't seen that what actually it is, but I know that there's COVID going around. I know other people have had this strep throat, and then others have come down with other congestion. So there is the urgent cares have been busy this week.
Man, I was sick like 3 times over the course of 6 weeks.
Yep.
I was so mad.
Brian, the star of the Gary Nolan Show, Brian Hansen, he's back today.
He is back.
Brian Hansen was sick 2 too. He had pretendinitis. You ever heard of pretendinitis?
Is that the same thing as the man flu?
That's where men, we pretend to be sicker than what we pretend to be sicker than what we really are, so that we get sympathy from folks.
I thought pretendinitis is what you got if you just sat home too long watching track meets on television.
One of the other things that I feel good about today, Mizzou, and here's why.
To software engineer.
So, Conzo Martin, now I happen to be working, so growing up in St. Louis and working in the St. Louis area, Conzo Martin, he played ball in East St. Louis, and on the TV stations, he got coverage. He was that good.
Yes, he did.
I moved to Indiana, Lafayette. Conzo Martin went and played at Purdue. Where's Purdue?
West Lafayette, Indiana.
Lafayette, Indiana. So, we kept following each other. So I had a long history with this guy. I was excited when he was named the head coach of Mizzou basketball several years ago. And here's one of the things that I really liked about him. He was about the complete student athlete, as they like to say. That's the politically correct way to
Yes.
say it, the student athlete. But he was about making sure these young men, trying to instill some good values in them, because a lot of these basketball players, a lot of these football players, you ever get a chance to sit down and chat with Gary Pinkel, former coach of the football team, hear the stories, the neighborhoods he went into to recruit football players and how they grew up. Wow, and the work that Gary Pinkel continues to do with people here in this community is incredible. So then you get Conzo Martin. He's got some big name. He's got some big love already here in the Show Me State, and you bring in a Dennis who? Dennis, what's the guy's last name? Gates, yeah. And what he has done is remarkable. And I remember, John, from his very first press conference, whenever he was introduced as the head coach at Mizzou, I thought, man, this he's making a pretty bold statement.
My dream, and I'll share with you because you guys are listening, my dream is to become a national champion.
Now, every coach, basketball, football, they come in, especially on a college level, they'll come in and say, well, we're going to win, we're going to do this. But he says, that's my dream. And I know we're only 1 year in, and I know it's just the SEC tournament, and I know Mizzou is ranked 25th in the country. But he's got folks excited again. I've been to Mizzou Arena over the past, anytime in the past 8 years, just about. And, you're seeing 7,000, 8,000 people there. And it feels,
if that.
And what's happened this year, wow.
They are
sellouts.
23-8, and I agree with you. I think it is worth noting, not to embarrass anyone, but there were fans certainly who were critical of the hire when it happened. They didn't feel like Cleveland State was was a major program, but I would argue it is. It's the Horizon League, and they send a lot of people to the league. Great integrity, but very much like Coach Martin, he focuses on the student athlete. They have to go to school to take their classes and stuff, and they're playing today. They're the 4 seed. He should have been the coach of the year, and there is no question in my mind. I'm sorry. Dennis Gates absolutely should be the coach of the year. They're the 4 seed. Volunteers, the 5 seed. They play today at 2:30. They're in the NCAA, I have no doubt, but they want to go as far as they can in this tournament. Who knows? They get hot, they could win the whole thing.
Something to get excited about.
I just got a funny text message from our friend Ashley Immel, who must be listening to the show because, you mentioned her name. You're looking to see if you have a text from her.
I am.
But she just texted me, and she has a 7-year-old daughter named Charlie. And she said that Charlie just asked if she could invite Branden Rathert to her birthday party. She must have heard how much you love birthday cake.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I was at a birthday party for a 4-year-old and 2 2-year-old twins at a clubhouse in a subdivision. And there was 30 kids there and 60 parents. And all these little kids running around in this little building. And in my mind, this is that germophobia thing. In me, all I see are these air particles floating around everywhere. So I sat in the corner of this clubhouse, and it was it was 25 that day. And I start slowly cranking the window open, and I keep scooting back. And I'm like I was gonna detach the garden hose from outside, bring it in so I could breathe fresh air through it, because all I can see are all these germ particles floating around everywhere.
So if you got invited to Charlie's birthday party, you wouldn't go?
Yes, I would go if I got invited.
Would you eat birthday cake?
No.
He'd bring his own.
I'd bring my own, man. Coming up just a few minutes from now, business news. The Morning Bell business news. Little twist, only Stephanie Bell can give you. Stephanie is back on Monday. But kind of interesting today, how you play your music at home. The game is changing again. Fascinating story. And I wanted to highlight this real quick, too, on a Feel Good Friday. You know, sometimes these celebrities, whether it's athletes and stuff, they go and do charitable work and they invite the cameras so they can post, hey, look what I did today. But not this classic rock musician, Dave Grohl. Foo Fighters frontman Dave Grohl quietly went and helped feed hundreds of homeless folks during a 24-hour barbecue cooking session in Los Angeles. He showed up and said, no, I don't want... Somebody got a picture of him anyway, and he did it without the fanfare. I thought that was pretty cool, and I think he's one of the folks that we should be saluting on a Feel Good Friday. Good morning, 8:28 time for the Morning Bell Business News with a little twist. Only Stephanie Bell can give. Kind of an interesting story. I want to start with this. Dow Jones futures opening 10 points down this morning, and the job numbers. U.S. hiring grew faster than expected in February. Unemployment ticking higher, up to 3.6%. How you play your music at home is front and center in the Morning Bell this morning. Time to dust off the old turntable. Vinyl records are having a major comeback for the first time in more than 30 years. Vinyl records outsold CDs. This is according to the Recording Industry Association of America's annual revenue report. In 2022, 41 million vinyl units were sold compared to 33 million CDs. I did not know this. I seriously, I thought they quit making CDs. I didn't know that you could. Can you still go to a store and buy a CD?
Yeah, I still see them in stores.
All right. Highlighting a remarkable resurgence of the physical music format. Vinyl records made up a total of 70% of all physical music sales in 2022, bringing in $1.2 billion in industry. John, how many people have you met that have said, man, I wished I had held on to my Black Sabbath albums and my records from Neil Diamond? How many people have you heard say that?
The guy in the mirror, mainly.
Coming up, Feel Good Friday, winners and losers of the week. The more localer, the more betterer. Get them into us, 874-9390, 874-9390.
I think just local news is like the most important stuff to me, even though it's kind of like bad stuff going on around me, but it's the most relevant to me.
Where I come from, there's an old plowboy out turning up dirt. Where I come from, there's a preacher man in a cowboy shirt. Where I come from, where a couple boys fight in the parking lot. No, nobody's gonna call the cops. Where I come from. See that door right there? Man, I swear that it ain't never been locked, and I guarantee that it never will. That old man right there in the rocking chair at the courthouse square.
I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite news subject to talk about. I think anything that creates good discussion, anything that you can talk about with other people, that you can exchange ideas without getting angry at each other, and you can share opinions and broaden your own thoughts on things. I think those are the best subjects to talk about.
My favorite news subject to talk about is probably the environment. I think people don't take into account what's going on in the world right now and all the pollution that's happening, especially in our oceans.
My favorite news subject to talk about is I like the local news because it doesn't get into all these politics and actually tells you what's going on in your neighborhood.
My favorite news subject to talk about is politics with history mixed together.
Favorite news subject to talk about is probably politics, just because everybody has their own opinion about it. I just like how they bash on Trump, and whether it's right or wrong, I think he's got a bum deal. But so I think it's fun to talk to people about it.
We talk about your work, how your boss is a jerk. We talk about your church and your head when it hurts. We talk about the troubles you've been having with your brother, about your daddy and your mother and your crazy ex-lover. We talk about your friends and the places that you've been. We talk about your skin and the dimples on your chin, the polish on your toes and the run in your hose, and God knows we're gonna talk about your clothes. You know talking about you makes me smile. But every once in a while, I wanna talk about me, I wanna talk about number one. Oh my, me, my, what I think, what I like, what I know, what I want, what I see. I like talking about you.
I just wanted to thank you very much for being where you are for 3 hours of my day.
I'm a new listener and already a huge fan.
You're calming for my soul.
Hey, hey, baby, can't you hear me calling? So let's stay home and enjoy the view. 'Cause I just wanna be loved by you, yeah. Don't answer the door, don't answer the phone. Let's tell the world to leave us alone. 'Cause I just wanna be loved by you. Baby, just you.
At some point, the trigger warning escaped from campus and got out into the real world, and now they're everywhere. Warnings at the top of Reddit threads and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram posts. Warnings before your favorite serial killer series, before news articles. Disney put an advisory on the movie Dumbo, warning viewers about stereotypes because otherwise you might think it was a documentary about flying elephants.
Bill Maher.
Anyway.
Talking about being woke and stuff. By the way, the other thing he talked about on a show last Friday is science is showing. By the way, in trigger warnings, they actually make it worse. And I think he said something to the effect, hey, just so you know, there's an ouchie coming. And he said it makes it worse for people. Because wouldn't you want to know that anytime something is going to hurt, you don't learn and grow that way. Anytime people are softening it up for you. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We're less than 30 minutes away from the start of the Gary Nolan Show. We're about a little over 24 hours from the start of the Como Man Show. Buy your tickets now is what I would suggest by going on to our websites, 939theeagle.com, KWOS.com. You can buy them right now, $15. Tomorrow at the door, they're $20. VIP option, you get food, you get your own area. It's very cool. This is just a massive show with guns and sports and beer and food and
us.
And us.
Hello.
Me, Hannah, and Steph will be out there starting at 10. And we're going to give you a chance to win some really cool stuff. We've set up our miniature golf. Marsh, Tobler, and I think Halsworth will be out there in the latter half of the show. So make sure you join us tomorrow. And besides, it's going to the chance of snow tomorrow, some rain. I mean, what else are you going to do outside? Come join us. Yeah. Hey, come inside. It's all indoors. Holiday Inn Executive Center in Columbia.
And now for nominees for the winners and losers of the week.
I love this time of week, not just because it's Friday, but because we do winners and losers of the week. 874-9390. And I want to get this. And I think the more localer, the more better. And I'm going to chalk this one up to Jack, listener Jack, who says, we got to pick this guy for winner of the week.
Better fasten your seatbelts, little dude.
We don't have seatbelts.
Well, then, just try to go limp.
I feel bad for laughing, but I don't.
It's Otto.
From Simpsons, the bus driver always had in the Walkmans, man. You little dude. That's the image I get of this Jefferson City bus driver who is from Boonville, still apparently in the Cole County Jail this morning awaiting a court appearance. And here's why he's picking this. Listen, no kids were hurt. And we got people who were kind of agreeing with us on this yesterday. That these kids, and this was an account, by the way, our news partners at ABC 17, they talked to a kid who was on the bus, and this young seventh grader said the bus driver was yelling at us to sit down, and the bus monitor was yelling at us to sit down. So you had two different people in authority positions on the bus telling kids to sit down. I'm guessing they weren't doing it. I'm not saying it makes what the guy did next. Right.
You bring up a good point. Locke Thompson was listening to us this morning. I just got a text. No.
Locke Thompson, Cole County prosecutor.
Locke just texted me in response to a couple questions I had, and he did listen this morning. He agrees with what I said. I've never seen a case like this where someone that's not, and I'm not downplaying it. I know it's serious, but these are 30 misdemeanors and 1 felony, which is property damage. He does expect, he doesn't have an explanation on that, but the judge sets the bond. He expects there'll be a bond set today. He's only seen it as well in murder, rape cases like that. He does say there'll be a court hearing today, but there's nothing in the court documents that there's no surprise. We know everything that we know about this. Not to downplay what he did, but this guy probably will be out on a bond at some point.
The other thing I'm wondering, I might be digging down deep into the what-if barrel, but I'm wondering, so the kids, the bus driver kicks him off the bus, and I want to say kudos, little brats, get the hell out of here. Sorry.
And this is why earlier in the week, when you suggested that you could be a bus driver for the Columbia Public School System, I said they probably don't want you.
But I would do that out of service.
Enough problems.
It wouldn't be out of spite.
Let me ask you. No, not out of spite. Seriously, because we get so many complaints from parents. They're like, what's going on? And Columbia Public Schools, they do not run their own bus system. That is contracted out. Yeah. Student Transportation of America. So I'd want to do it to help, to make sure these little kids are getting to school, because I just would. But I'm wondering, my dad, you know what my dad would have said? If I'd gotten kicked off that bus, my dad would have said, good for the bus driver.
Yeah,
he would have
you're walking to school.
That's right. Absolutely, he would have, without a doubt. What do you think your parents would have said if you weren't behaving and you got kicked off the bus, Hannah?
Serves you right.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Same
I
response.
got kicked off the bus as a kid.
It's a different era, but the allegation about I think where first of all he was screaming and stuff, but also allegedly driving over the mailboxes. That's the
twice,
and then leaving the scene.
And that's the part that makes me laugh. Not for the property owner, but the dude was having a day, man.
John, did you say you got kicked off the bus as a kid?
Yep.
What'd you do?
Stupid kid stuff.
Oh, come on.
Oh, listen.
I didn't follow the instruction of Otto, the bus driver.
So that's one of our winners of the week, according to Jack. Who you got for winners and losers, Houseworth?
I have two very quick ones. One, I want to give a winner of the week to our advertisers here at 93.9 The Eagle, because without them, we could not function. And they are small businesses, and they are the heart and soul of this community.
KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle advertisers, Jefferson City and California and Boonville and everywhere. We appreciate your support.
No question about that. Secondly, Holly Harrison is a name that most people won't be familiar with. Holly Harrison is a medical professional here in town and takes care of my ears. I had some ear issues over the past weekend, and she took care of them. Very, very grateful, and she is fantastic, and MU Health is lucky to have her.
Marsh, who you got for winners or losers?
Let's do a sports one. We've been talking up the basketball team so much. How about the Blues' new winger from last night, Jakub Vrana, who we picked up from the Wings? Had his first goal as a Blue last night.
How cool is that? What about St. Louis soccer? I am not a soccer fan. I get it. It's the most popular sport in the world, probably the least popular sport in America. But St. Louis and folks in Missouri we now have two Major League Soccer teams, and apparently they just did gangbusters last week.
Yeah, the St. Louis startup, one of the fastest starts ever in pro soccer in the U.S.
Continuing on the sports theme, the Tipton Lady Cardinals are playing in the Final Four for Class 2 basketball today.
All right.
Awesome. I believe tip-off is 8 o'clock tonight, and they're playing Norwood,
which is in Southwest Missouri. They had the gym was completely packed, Hannah, last night. People lined up out the door for the young ladies, and they all signed autographs. It looked like something out of the movie Hoosiers, how crowded it was. Rod Smith had video. It did. I thought Gene Hackman was going to show up on my screen. It was that good.
Also, St. Elizabeth, they're going to the Class 1 boys state title game. Kudos to them. Did you see Sean's text, Hannah, at 874-9390?
I did. I was trying to ignore it.
We're talking about why I'd be a bus driver. I'd kick them kids off, too. Sean says that's exactly why Brandon should be a bus driver.
Those kids would go home and be like, Mom, my bus driver today was barefoot.
Hey, I'm going to pick the 1996 version of this dude as a winner.
I'm the guy that suggested in the first national drug strategy that we get the military involved.
The 2023 version of this dude is a loser. Joe Biden, 1996, supported using military forces to try to stop the drug cartel as it relates to Mexico. I have another winner of the week, Vivek Ramaswamy. Here's one. He's on Fox's Stuart Varney, and Stuart Varney asked him, is the GOP party, is it the party of Trump? I love the answer that Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running for president on the GOP side, I love the answer he gave because it's what I've been saying for the longest time. Listen, Trump is not the guy. He would probably win a GOP nomination. I think it seriously dampens and hinders the chances of a Republican then becoming president because too many people that aren't affiliated with with any party would not vote for Trump. But somebody who has that same mindset, like Ron DeSantis, way better shot at winning a general presidential election. And I will take that to the bank all day. Prove me wrong in 2024. So I loved Vivek Ramaswamy's answer to that question.
I think that the America First agenda, the people who are behind America First, are really committed to putting America first.
And he went on to say, America first. Yes, the idea, the mindset, the things Trump did, but maybe Trump is not the guy carrying the bag to the White House. Bill, thank you for the fact check. I said we have two Major League Soccer teams in Missouri. Appreciate you reaching out. Sporting Kansas City is in Kansas. They are not in the state of Missouri. Hannah, winners, losers?
I've actually got a loser of the week.
Come on, man.
We need to have a moment of silence.
Okay.
For Brandon's plastic Gatorade bottle that he fills up with water every single day, and that Wake Up family members were very concerned about during our CMN Radiothon. The water bottle may be no more.
I've 2 days in a row. That thing's my security blanket.
Services for the water bottle would be held.
Yeah.
I think I finally convinced Brandon to go get some reusable water bottles.
The Gatorade bottle is reusable. I wash it.
Some of the germs in it.
Okay. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
We had people freaking out on the Wake Up Facebook page. I tried to do a funny post about holding your water bottle for ransom, and we had people really worried about your well-being and your health because those bottles are not made to be reused, and they were worried about the toxins from the plastic seeping into your water. It was a whole thing.
And this from the guy who seldomly gets sick, and I think the only one in the room who hasn't had COVID.
You better knock on wood right now.
Coming up, leftovers. Guess what?
I cannot believe you just said that.
Guess what's in leftovers? More winners.
A water bottle, apparently.
More winners and losers of the week. That's coming up in Leftovers. We still, by the way, we have some really good ones we want to drop on you. That's coming up 5 minutes from now. Sammy Davis Jr.
Don't go to bed with no price on your head. No.
I love that.
That's a good one.
I know it. I just love that.
He was also in the movie remake of Truman Capote's In Cold Blood, where he was a scary killer.
Yeah, he got and I think he won. I don't think he won an Oscar, but he won some awards for some of the stuff that he had done in movies. He died at the age of 89. All right, more winners and losers. Oh, and I'm picking this guy. This is something we covered. I think it was yesterday morning. We talk about personalized plates. And matter of fact, we covered this in depth several months ago on the show. It was funny, all the people calling in with the great plates. And we spoke with, I think, somebody from the Department of Revenue about plates that got denied. But a dude in Maine had some plates, and the state of Maine is trying to deny the plates. And if you write this out, the plates that he wants to get, L-U-V-T-O-F-U. L-U-V-T-O-F-U. What do you think, right? My head right away. Yep, 16 years old.
I don't know why love tofu would be considered inappropriate.
So that's...
Maybe just doesn't like tofu.
Yeah.
So that's what this guy's argument is. Because the state of it's Maine, they're saying, well, people might be offended, trigger warnings and all that rainbow and unicorn crap. And there's people might be offended. He's like, well, I'm
who
not.
Would be offended? The lobster fisherman, maybe. That'd be about it.
Yeah. And so that was his argument. He says it's love tofu. It's not whatever you're thinking. And by the way, shame on you, he said to the officials in Maine who are trying to deny this plate. Shame on you for thinking that thing. But that's the first thing their head goes to. But they wanted to protect other people from their feelings, from being hurt or being offended, because they're the ones who thought you think that. Nobody else is responsible for what you think. I got to own my own stuff. But he says, no, I'm a tofu lover. It's not what you think. I want to make sure we got everybody in. I had Pete Ducey from Fox. He asked a great question of Karine Jean-Pierre this week about, well, is Biden, he's doing nothing at the border. The vice president, she's doing nothing at the border. She's the one you put in charge of. And his question was, why